There is a specific sound that a tennis shoe makes when it drags across crushed red brick. It is a harsh, grinding friction, a whisper resistance that echoes to the most hollowed, historic stadiums in Europe. Clay court tennis is not merely a surface. It is an entirely different sport. It strips away the overwhelming advantages of a booming serve. It neutralizes sheer, unadulterated power. It demands a brutal, suffocating level of patience, physical endurance, and a psychological resilience that most human beings simply do not possess. On clay, you cannot hide every weakness in your movement. Every slight hesitation in your stroke production is magnified by the slow, high bounce of the ball. It is a surface designed to break the human spirit. And it is precisely on this unforgiving red dirt that the entire trajectory of Southeast Asian sports history is about to be rewritten. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at a breaking development that might seem, to the casual observer, like a standard scheduling update. It has just been confirmed that 20-year-old Alexandra EALA, the pride of the Philippines and the most fascinating rising star on the Women's Tennis Association Tour, is making her next stop at the 2026 Internationaux de Strasbourg. Now, you might be asking yourself, why does a WTA 500 event in the Alsace region of France warrant an exhaustive investigation? Why are we dedicating this time to a tournament that serves as the final, quiet prelude to the chaos of Roland Garros? Because this is not just a warm-up. This is a siege. To understand the magnitude of this news, we have to look at the invisible architecture of professional tennis. We have to look at the mathematics of survival, the crushing weight of national expectations, and a very specific, very dangerous gamble that EALA and her team are taking right at this exact moment. Right now, Alexandra EALA is sitting at a live ranking of number 38 in the world. She is 20 years old. She has already sent shockwaves through the tennis establishment. But in the ruthless hierarchy of Grand Slam tennis, being number 38 is a remarkably vulnerable place to be. Only the top 32 players are seeded. If you are unseeded at the French Open, your first-round opponent could be a qualifier, or your first-round opponent could be IGA Swiatek. It is a lottery of survival. This trip to Strasbourg is not about finding her rhythm. It is a highly calculated last-minute offensive to secure her legacy, to hunt down the final ranking points needed, and to construct an impenetrable fortress of confidence before stepping onto the grounds of Paris. But here is the open loop we need to explore today. Is this the brilliant, aggressive maneuver of a future Grand Slam champion? Or is it a fatal miscalculation? In a 2026 season defined by devastating injuries to top players, in a tour where the physical demands have broken prodigies before they even peak, is stepping onto the grueling clay of Strasbourg just days before the French open a masterstroke of preparation, or a one-way ticket to physical burnout. By the end of this deep dive, you'll understand exactly what is at stake. We are going to trace the extraordinary, unprecedented journey of a young woman who had to leave her home country to conquer a sport that was never designed for her to dominate. We are going to break down the biomechanics of her game, the hidden motives behind her scheduling, and the terrifying reality of the modern WTA Tour. This is the story of the Strasbourg stratagem. This is the story of Alex EALA. Let us wind the clock back and establish the context. Because to understand the gravity of Strasbourg 2026, you must understand the anomaly of Alexandra EALA's very existence on this tour. Tennis is a sport of geographic monopolies. Historically, if you wanted to build a world-class tennis player, you needed the vast infrastructure of the United States, the localized clay court factories of Spain and South America, or the relentless, state-sponsored academies of Eastern Europe. The Philippines, a spectacular, vibrant archipelago of over 100 million people, is a nation that worships basketball and boxing. It is a country that understands the visceral poetry of a heavy bag and the geometric beauty of a hardwood court. It did not, historically, possess the systemic blueprint to forge a Grand Slam tennis champion. So, how did we get here? How does a girl from Quezon City become the most feared 20-year-old on the European red clay? It required an exile. It required a family willing to understand that potential is geographically bound until you force it to move. EALA's journey to the Rafael Nadal Academy in Manacor, Spain, was not just a training arrangement. It was a fundamental rewiring of her athletic DNA. She wasn't just learning to hit a tennis ball. She was learning to hit a tennis ball under the watchful, obsessive eye of the greatest clay court player in the history of human civilization. She was absorbing the philosophy of suffering, Nadal's ethos, that every single point is a war, that you must play with frantic, desperate intensity regardless of the scoreline, seeped into her foundation of mechanics. We saw the culmination of that junior development with her Grand Slam victories. But the transition to the senior tour is where prodigies go to die. The graveyard of professional tennis is filled with junior Grand Slam champions who could never quite adjust to the heavy, suffocating weight of the women's professional circuit. The women on the WTA tour hit harder, they move faster, and they possess a dark, cynical tactical awareness that you simply cannot teach to a teenager. But the paradigm shifted for EALA in 2025. Let us talk about the Miami Open. Let us talk about the moment the narrative fractured. In Miami, under the oppressive Florida heat, a 19-year-old EALA stared down Madison Keys. Keys, at the time, was the world number 5. Keys possesses one of the most terrifyingly heavy forehands in the history of the sport. She can take the racket out of your hand with sheer velocity. And what did EALA do? She didn't just survive, she dismantled her. She absorbed the pace, redirected the angles, and became the first Filipina in history to defeat a top 10 WTA player, eventually surging to the semifinals. That was the announcement. That was the moment the locker room realized she was no longer a junior prospect. She was an immediate, present threat. Which brings us to the current 2026 clay court swing. The narrative leading up to Strasbourg has been one of meticulous, grinding progression. Just weeks ago, at the WTA 1000 in Madrid, she successfully defended her points. She dispatched a veteran, the 12-time champion Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. That is not a minor detail. Beating a hardened Russian veteran on European clay requires a level of tactical maturity that borders on the savant. She then moved to Rome, the eternal city, where the clay is heavier, slower, more demanding. She fought her way through the early rounds, taking down Magdalena Freck and Xine Wang, securing her place in a round of 32. And then she ran into the wall. Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, the ice queen of the WTA. Rybakina is a server who fundamentally breaks the geometry of the court. Against Rybakina, EALA lost 6-4, 6-2. But look beyond the scoreline. Look at the data. EALA forced the issue. She earned 55 crucial ranking points, elevating her live ranking to number 38. This is the exact crucible where the decision to play Strasbourg was forged. Why Strasbourg? Let us analyze the hidden motives and the underlying factors of this specific tournament entry. The Internationaux de Strasbourg is a WTA 500 event. It is not a sprawling 2-week marathon. It features a tight 28-player singles main draw. It is intimate, it is intense, and has been the premier preparation event for French Open since 1987. Legends have refined their strokes here. Steffi Graf, Lindsay Davenport, Maria Sharapova. But EALA's presence here is fascinating because of her status. The entry lists for these tournaments are finalized weeks in advance. When the cutoff for Strasbourg occurred, EALA's ranking was likely not high enough to secure a direct main draw entry, or she initially planned to rest, scheduling to play the WTA 125 event in Parma, Italy, before withdrawing after her deep run in Rome. This is where the tactical genius, or perhaps the desperate scramble, reveals itself. EALA withdrew from Parma. The turnaround from Sunday night under the lights of the Foro Italico in Rome to a Monday start in Parma was physically impossible. But she needs match play. She needs points. And more importantly, she needs a specific environmental conditioning that only the Grand Estate region of France can provide. As of Thursday morning, May 14th, the 20-year-old Filipina was navigating the qualifying rounds of Strasbourg. Let that sink in. The world number 38, grinding through the qualifiers just days before a Grand Slam. Strasbourg is geographically and meteorologically the closest replica you can find to the conditions in Paris. The way the ball cuts through the damp air, the way the clay binds the shoes, it is the ultimate dress rehearsal, but it is also a psychological battlefield. Every player in Strasbourg is dealing with the exact same pre-slam anxiety. They are all tweaking their strings, adjusting their tension, and trying to find a delicate balance between peaking and breaking. Let us initiate a micro deep dive into the biomechanics and the specific technical advantages Eala brings to the surface. Alexandra Eala is a left-hander. In the realm of tennis, being left-handed is akin to possessing a superpower that forces your opponent to read the game backwards. The natural spin of her cross-court forehand kicks violently up and away into the weaker backhand side of a right-handed opponent. This is the exact pattern that Rafael Nadal used to completely dominate the tour for a decade and a half. Eala stands at 1.75 meters. She does not have the overwhelming, towering leverage of a Rybakina or the sheer muscular explosion of an Aryna Sabalenka. Her game is built on kinetic chain efficiency. Her footwork, honed in manicore, is spectacular. On clay, movement is not about running. It is about sliding into the shot and recovering simultaneously. Eala's ability to defend the corners, to throw up high, heavy, neutralizing moonballs when out of position, and then suddenly step inside the baseline and take the ball on a rise, is a tactical nightmare for her opponents. She is a chameleon. She can play the grinder, and she can play the aggressor. But the Strasbourg field is not going to simply hand her the trophy. A WTA 500 event the week before Slam is always loaded with players who have something to prove. Every match in Strasbourg will be a dogfight. And this leads us directly to the counter-argument. Let us play devil's advocate. Is playing the Internationaux de Strasbourg a colossal mistake? We must look at the brutal reality of the 2026 season. The tennis calendar is an archaic, punishing marathon that spans 11 months. We are seeing unprecedented levels of attrition. Carlos Alcaraz, the poster boy for the new generation, let a growing roster withdrawals from Rome due to physical breakdown. The human body is simply not designed to undergo the violent, repetitive, high-impact stress of modern professional tennis on a weekly basis. There's a very real, very terrifying phenomenon known in tennis circles as the pre-slam hangover. A player goes deep in a warm-up tournament, wins a title on a Saturday in Strasbourg, and is immediately forced onto the high-speed train to Paris, utterly depleted. By the time their first-round match at Roland Garros begins on a Tuesday, their legs are heavy, their central nervous system is fried, and they suffer a shocking, catastrophic early exit. Is Eala playing with fire? She had an intense run in Madrid. She had an intense run in Rome. Her body is carrying the cumulative fatigue of weeks of high-stakes tennis. By entering the qualifying round to Strasbourg, she willingly added extra matches to her schedule just to reach the main draw, where she will then face top-tier opposition. If she sustains a micro-tear in her abdominal wall while reaching for a serve, or tweaks an ankle sliding into a drop shot in the quarterfinals of Strasbourg, the dream of Roland Garros evaporates instantly. The counter-argument dictates that a true veteran, a seasoned champion, would take this week off. They would fly straight to Paris, hit lightly on the practice courts, get massages, rest, and prepare for the grueling 2-week war of the Grand Slam. But this is where we have to analyze the psychology of a 20-year-old disruptor. Alexandra Eala does not have the luxury of coasting. She is hunting a seed. The Roland Garros seedings are heavily reliant on the rankings cutoff of May 18th. While any points earned in Strasbourg won't officially count toward that specific Roland Garros seeding cutoff, the live ranking push is about establishing her territory. It is about proving to the locker room and to herself that she is a top 30 player in form, regardless of the number next to her name. And more than that, she is carrying a weight that an American or European player simply cannot comprehend. When an American player loses in the first round of a tournament, it is a disappointment. When Alexandra Eala steps onto court, she is carrying the hopes of an entire diaspora. Every match she plays as headline news in Manila. Every victory is celebrated as a national triumph. This kind of pressure can either crush a young athlete, turning their legs to lead, or it can forge them into a diamond. Eala has shown time and time again that she thrives in the crucible of expectation. She wants the reps. She wants a battle. She is a warrior who would rather enter the French Open exhausted but battle-tested, rather than rested but undercooked. So, what are the long-term implications of this week? Let us project 5 years into the future. Let us look at the year 2031. If Alexandra Eala successfully navigates this treacherous period, if she uses Strasbourg as a launch pad to make a second-week run at Roland Garros, she has not just improved her ranking. She fundamentally alters the geopolitical landscape of the sport. We are already seeing the early tremors of this impact. The Philippine government and private sectors are watching. When EALA succeeds, funding flows. Grassroots academies will begin to sprout not just in Manila, but in Cebu, in Davao. A young girl watching EALA slide across the red clay of Strasbourg on a delayed stream will suddenly realize that tennis is not just a sport for the European elite. The barrier of entry, the psychological wall that says we do not belong here, is being systematically dismantled by one left-handed 20-year-old. By 2031, we could be looking at an Asian tennis renaissance, sparked directly by the milestones EALA is achieving right now. She is the vanguard. She is the pioneer taking the arrows so that the next generation can walk freely. But beyond the geopolitics, beyond the rankings and the seedings, tennis remains the most profoundly lonely sport in the world. When you are out there on the dirt, there is no coaching timeout to save you. There is no substitution. It is just you, your racket, and the relentless geometry of the court. The 2026 Internationaux de Strasbourg is not just a tournament for Alexandra EALA. It is a mirror. It will reflect exactly where she stands physically, tactically, and emotionally as she approaches a defining challenge of clay court season. Every sliding forehand, every grueling rally, is a question asked and answered in real time. My final thought for you to ponder is this. We are obsessed with the final destination. We want to know if she will win a Grand Slam. We want to know if she will become world number one. But true greatness is not solely forged in the trophy ceremony on Philippe Chatrier. True greatness is forged on a damp Tuesday afternoon in Strasbourg, playing a qualifying match, grinding for a single ranking point, when your body is screaming for rest and the entire world is watching. The results of this week will fade, but the absolute, relentless refusal to back down, the willingness to step into the fire week after week, that is a hallmark of a generational talent. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. If this breakdown changed the way you view the brutal realities of the professional tennis circuit, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I want to hear your thoughts and comments below. Is entering the Strasbourg Open a stroke of genius preparation or a dangerous risk of burnout before Roland Garros? Drop your analysis down there, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep watching the baseline.